Hello, Adam Tragone here, Managing Editor of Human Events. Welcome to Human Events Studios. Today we have a very special guest. It's my honor to introduce the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Mr. Ken Cuccinelli. Thank you for being here, sir.
My pleasure, Adam.
In the new book, you focus a lot of the time on Obamacare and the president's health care law and the lawsuit. You were first out of the gate with that, and you talk about that day, but for the folks that haven't read it yet, can you go back to that day and tell us what you were thinking and your mindset?
Well, first of all, when Scott Brown got elected in January of 2010, suddenly we knew that the bill that had gone from the Senate to the House couldn't come back, because then there were enough Republican senators who were committed to filibustering it that it wouldn't survive. So the bill was going to get an up or down vote in the House of Representatives. And that meant if it passed in mid-January, late January, we knew what the bill was. So we could go to work determining just how bad the offenses against the Constitution were in the bill. We had 2 months before it finally reached the president's desk to do that. And of course, on March 23rd, the president signed the bill. A lot of people don't know. It's something we pay close attention to in Virginia. That was the 235th anniversary of Patrick Henry's "Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death" speech. And I thought that health care bill was a substantial invasion of our liberty. It was a tremendous burden on our liberty. And what would Patrick Henry think? I think I know what Patrick Henry would think. But we filed suit 30 minutes or so later in the federal courthouse. And it didn't occur to me until that night that not only was it the 235th anniversary of Patrick Henry's "Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death" speech, but he gave that speech on the same street that we filed our lawsuit on. It was Broad Street in Richmond. In St. John's Church, then it was called Enrico Parish. And I thought the historical irony was pretty thick. And as I told people in the over 2 years of litigating the healthcare case, that case was not about healthcare, it was about liberty, which is what we talk about in the book. And pushing back on the federal government when it tramples the Constitution in a situation like that is how we preserve liberty. And the founders expected the states to play this role. And it isn't just for the prerogatives of the states. The states were expected to play that role to protect yours and my personal freedom, our liberty. And the states have been doing that. Unfortunately, we've had lots of opportunities, as I said. Healthcare was the biggest one, and it was a real educational opportunity, I think, for the American people. Certainly I talked about the first principles that underlay that case and what the philosophical level of debate was, in addition to the legal and constitutional contest.
And I think Patrick Henry would probably agree with your assessment that you said on the day of, that you mentioned in the book, that it was a dark day for the American people. But after your analysis of the decision, the Supreme Court decision, do you still feel that way?
Well, I certainly still feel that way, but it's worth noting that we won, the small government side won 3 of the 4 constitutional arguments, including the biggest surprise of the whole case was not that it was upheld, it was that there was a 7-2 vote by the justices that the spending power had been exceeded by the federal government. It was the first limitation on federal spending power that we had gotten since really the explosion of the New Deal. We also got limits on the commerce power, necessary and proper clause. We won those 3 arguments, but the law still stands because the Chief Justice essentially rewrote the law as something Congress had amended it from, and that's to be a tax.
And where does the challenge stand at this point? What's the game plan for the states?
Well, we got more flexibility, for instance, by winning on the spending argument. And so now in this General Assembly in Virginia that's still going on, and you'll hear it in my governor's race, you'll hear debate about whether or not to undertake the Medicaid expansion. That wasn't a realistic option before we won the spending debate on the spending clause. And the reason was that they held, I'll use Virginia as an example, all $4 billion of the federal Medicaid money to Virginia over our head as to whether or not we would undertake $1, $2, $3, $400 million more dollars a year. So that was quite a Damocles sword. And the Supreme Court said the federal government can't do that. They can't hold the states hostage like that. So all of a sudden we had a decision on the merits. And absent radical changes in how the federal government gives the states or doesn't give the states flexibility, that is not something I think we proceed with. Other governors are making other decisions. My opponent in that race has a different position, but that's why we have debates. It's why we have elections.
And Republicans in Congress, they have tried unsuccessfully to repeal it in full. What approach would you take if you had the opportunity? Is it a piecemeal approach, or would you be for
full repeal? Well, I think certainly I'd be for full repeal, but I mean, realize that even before this, we have so thoroughly messed up our healthcare market that you can't even walk into a doctor's office and ask for something other than a ordinary checkup and ask them for the cash price. They don't know it. It's not that they won't tell you. They don't even know it. And the price is the most fundamental piece of information in a marketplace. That tells you we don't have a free market in healthcare. We need to move much more in that direction if we're going to improve healthcare. And part of improve healthcare means improve access, but you do that by lowering costs, not by commanding all the different players in the healthcare market to do what you want them to do in the case of big government.
And thank you, Mr. Attorney General, for stopping by. This has been Adam Tragone, Managing Editor at Human Events.